Hello, Fred Field. You are on it, sir. You are here right on time once again, making it so obviously that I am a full minute late. Thank you, Fred, for your consistency and your dedication and your support. That's really kind of you. How are you there in Chicago area? I'm doxing you, right? Because you tell people that all the time. So I am doing all right. I'm doing really well actually here in the Springfield, Ohio area that I have recently doxed myself to let people know right where I'm at because I think it's important with all this weird stuff going on with the dogs and the cats. The truth about cats and dogs. Oh, I was gonna put on a jacket or something. I don't know. I'm just casual today. Got my t-shirt on. Sometimes I dress professionally. Not, I don't try. It's just that that's kind of how I dress because I'm a dork. Anyway, hit your like button if you'd be so kind. Should I grab a jacket? It's kind of warm. I don't think I will. I think I'll just grab my water. And let's see. I've got my share, subscribe, notify thing off screen over here with my chasing unicorns and the squirrel. The whole bunch of this stuff is out of view. Do you see it? There's the subscribe, share, notify, chase your unicorns. You can't really see that part. There's the chasing the unicorns. And can you see the squirrel? No, it's way down here. There's the squirrel. Down here with the bunny. You can't see the bunny. Look, I've got too much cool stuff. And now I'm like totally messing myself up. Okay, let's try to not be touching things. Have you guys seen Drop Dead Fred Field? Have you seen that? Alice Morale Dennis, hello. Have you seen Drop Dead Fred where he says, I'm the pirate who's not allowed to touch anything? I always think of that when I'm like, don't touch anything. The pirate who's not allowed to touch anything. Okay. I think it's good. I like to make sure that you can see that cool new thing, though. Bex is here watching the world drift away. You were funny yesterday with your joke about my batteries, my battery-operated toys. We won't go there, right? Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to open up a discussion and learn something and be educational and show you all my cool toys. All my videos are made for YouTube and it's an entertainment platform. Yes, Driftaway. You guys are all so cute. Bex, Driftaway, Alice, Fred. No, have been seen very few movies the last 10 to 12 years. Drop Dead Fred was from about 1990. Hilarious movie with Phoebe Cates and Kevin Kline, I think, played her philandering husband. No. Kevin Kline's her husband in real life. And I think he was in the movie. But no, some other guy played her philandering husband. And Princess Leia played her best friend. And it was a good movie. I highly recommend Drop Dead Fred. It's hilarious. I love that movie, Snot Face. I like the breaky noises. I love breaky noises. So Fred is the imaginary friend that she had to kill with medication when she was a kid that comes back into her life when she has a nervous breakdown. Essentially. I don't think I blew it, right? Really good movie. And I saw that movie before I knew anything about mental health. And I've seen it since then, too. It's one of those movies you definitely want to see more than once if you like it like I did. Okay. I got to reach over here for my notes. Hold on, because I got a lot of notes, as usual. Too many notes. And what else? I'm just trying to make sure that I've covered all my bases with make sure you're still subscribed. If you are subscribed, if you're not subscribed, please consider just hitting that button. It makes a big difference in the algorithm. This is why I don't like t-shirts. They kind of bunch up and do funky things. The necklace, everything is so weird. The stupid screen, I'm telling you guys, it distorts things. The angles, the lights. I don't use any filters, and I probably should. But the filters make you, a lot of times, you can kind of tell who's using filters because a lot of times they make you look like a cartoon, right? It's wild. Like Alec Baldwin, he liked to use filters when he would go on his lives early on in the case. Should we start with that real quick since I brought it up? I don't know, because it's so dubious, but I heard a lawyer who was new to me, a guy lawyer, a few weeks ago, talking about why he thought that the case should be retried and why the judge dismissing that case was illegitimate. And that's because the Brady Giglio, he articulated it so well. The Brady Giglio clause only works if the evidence is relevant to the case. So if personnel are not sharing information that's not relevant to the case, then that's a moot point, right? And that random box of ammo, a day late and a dollar short, by Hannah Gutierrez's Reed's daddy's friend, Thal Reed's buddy, Troy Thiel, I think was his name. Troy Thal. No, Thal Reed and Troy something with a T. Anyway, that was weird. That was totally illegitimate in my opinion, and it was a desperate tactic. And I believe that it was allowed to quote unquote work and derail everything because everybody works for Alec. You know, he's the man with the money. He's the man with the deep pockets. Everybody's going to work for him. You go against him, especially if you work in Hollywood, you're done. You're absolutely done. And Helena went against him in his mind, I believe, the night before she quote unquote accidentally was shot. I mean, we all know that you don't point a gun at somebody, whether you think it's loaded or not. We also know that no matter who you are, you always check the gun, even if you think it's unloaded. Yeah, it's childish. Anyway, enough of that. So I put in my description already this new announcement from Idaho State government authority, like the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, Drug Enforcement Authority. So they just busted like 10 people with like 30 pounds of methamphetamine. And it just dawned on me how stupid I am. I mean, I knew that Idaho 4 had everything to do with rugs to begin with. The whole style of that slaughter was very cars that tell and cars that don't tell kind of signature. And then the whole thing with the rat parties, the frat parties, and frat parties and Coca-Cola go together like peanut butter and jelly, like white on rice. I mean, it's like they're married. They don't go anywhere without each other. Okay, just my opinion. And yeah, then the whole thing with like Maddie's parents and let's see, Xana's mother. Oh, I'm not wanting to blame anybody, but we know the connections that they had. And then we got to remember Demetrius and Emma, right? Emma and Demetrius. Those two who were arrested for that kid. Can I think of his name? Young. Caden Young. The kid that passed away from an overdose over there in Western Washington on spring break. And the rugs went back to Emma and Demetrius, and then they were put in the same jail as the criminal defendant for the Idaho 4. And then they were basically sprung. Because jurisdictions, because the rugs were acquired there in Idaho, but the passing away happened in Washington state. So they said that them getting arrested in Idaho was bad jurisdiction logic. And then I mean, the rugs were procured there, so I think it makes sense. But that's just my opinion. I'm not an attorney or a judge or anything like that. Um, I just know some things. I've worked in the courts, and stuff. I know some stuff. I know some things. So, what's my point? That there was a lot of rugs involved in that whole situation, allegedly, in my opinion, and the whole frat party thing, and then the whole thing with the UC Davis football game that happened that day that nobody wants to talk about, that the entire town was at that football game, because let's face it, that entire town is pretty much the university, and the university and the entire town are all about football, and UC Davis is their main rival. The University of Idaho had already lost to Davis at Davis that year, and somebody got cut with a sharp instrument in Davis on the day of that game. And then this game, I mean, trigger warning, I think that the football team got slaughtered by UC Davis, right? I mean, I used that intentionally. The whole case just reeks from the ground up, and it just is ridiculous. But it made me think beyond Idaho, which I didn't know they called Idaho the Magic Valley, or maybe that's just parts of Idaho. I thought that was kind of interesting to me. And yeah, I've seen very few movies since I've had kids, Fred Field. So yeah, it made me think of all these cases. All of these cases, every single one of the cases that I cover is probably so much to do with rugs. I know that most all of the cases I cover have much to do with corruption, because that's sort of what entices me and draws me in. Violence against women, cover-ups, and the backdrop for all of these cases, I really believe, is rugs. And then they try to keep your focus on the corruption. They try to keep your focus on the slaughters as a big distraction tactic for what's really going on, because people are profiting. I mean, 30 pounds of methamphetamine, if you watch the video that I put the link to, they'll tell you how many doses that is for people that use or abuse that substance. It's a lot. I mean, and this is just one bust. So let me get caught up with you guys so you don't run ahead, because then I get all confused. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Wife would not go to theaters, and we never rented it. After she passed, I rented only a handful after 2001. Well, yeah, it probably makes you too sad, Fred, to go to movies or to watch movies, since you guys had that habit of not watching movies. I do like good movies, and there's a lot of bad ones. So I feel like it's playing Russian roulette. It's a very high risk. I don't like Hollywood in general, and I think a lot of movies are a waste of time. And a lot of them are probably just money laundering fronts, so like Rust was. There, I said it. I'm just being blunt. It's just my opinion. It's just my conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. So Fred says, hi, chatters, and I thought it said hi, haters, because I have dyslexia, so I had to read that twice. Watching the World says, because he is rich and a lot of investors were counting on the results. Well, and that movie was considered a passion project. It was not to make money. It was just to stay busy. It was right after COVID. So, there'd been a shutdown on productions with COVID. So people were very happy to work, and I'm sure the investors were really happy to have some shells for their investments. Yeah. I'm just going to start speaking more bluntly like that. Is that okay with you guys? I think I should. I think it's gotten to that point. Sometimes I try to skirt around things and say things delicately, or just, give you the look so you know what it is I'm saying. Hey, Miss Shan, I love you. I'm so happy to see you here. I didn't know if you still loved me or not, my dear. Honestly, again, I'm just keeping it real. If that's too much, just let me know. I'll be respectful. Okay. Hi, Fred, Bex, Alice, and Jazz. It's so lovely to see all of you people. Rock on. So it is Saturday, September 28th. It's about 2:45. And you guys know when I did my live yesterday, I said that there was like something like 8 or 10 or 12 fatalities from Hurricane Helena. The last time I checked, it was as high as 43 or 44. I haven't checked in a few hours. Is that devastating or what? Anybody here that was in the path? I would think not, because you probably don't have internet if you were in that path. I mean, I've talked to family that lives in Florida who was not in the path and they lost power. I think the whole state lost power. The entire state of Florida lost power, except for maybe like a handful of people, right? Have you guys heard that? It's cray. So I didn't, and I still haven't paid much attention to that case. Are you talking about Rust, or are you talking about Idaho 4? You're probably talking about Rust. Fight Club and Rugs. Hello there. Waken ya Tenka. That's a cool handle. Nice to meet you. I haven't seen you before unless you had a different handle. It's the one I think I'd recognize. Fight Club and Rugs are a common thread between some of the most prominent cases in the last couple of years. Yeah, the Fight Club is huge. Right. Like, look at Gabby Petito. I was talking about Gabby Petito's case yesterday, and I missed a really key point. Sometimes I think that I'm saying these things that I don't quite articulate out of my mouth, which is why I like to review my videos so that I can say, wait a second, I missed the main point. So let me hit on the main point that I missed yesterday in the Gabby Petito case. Okay. Just going to jump right into it and then I'll get caught back up with your chat. So thanks for being here, everybody. So if the public were to see the body cam footage of the Ranger, Melissa Hall, the only female out there at that traffic stop domestic violence intervention, if the public were to see that, and if anything were said about Crystal Turner and Kylan Schulte, especially something as direct and explicit as, well, if you're scared to go camping by yourself tonight, why don't you go up to LaSalle Loop Road and find this really cool couple that basically lives up there and they're really friendly and I'm sure they'll be happy to have you camp near them and you'll feel safe, right? I think it's reasonable. Again, small town, and Gabby already probably was acquainted with Crystal from sitting in front of the Moonflower all day working on her vlog site, right? She was trying to build her website for her. This was going to be their business that supported them so they could do the van life thing. But in the event that there was a clear connection between law enforcement and Gabby interacting with Crystal and Kylan, and then Crystal and Kylan were off on their campsite, at their campsite 2 days later, that could make law enforcement culpable, potentially, for 2 more homicides, where law enforcement is already 100% culpable for Gabby's homicide. But honestly, between you and me, I don't know that I've said this before. I know that I've said that I think Brian Laundrie is responsible for Crystal and Kylan. I think he's probably responsible for more than the 3. I think that he is probably alive still. We can talk about that if you guys want to. I'm just so glad that that body cam footage was released a few days ago of the police going to his parents' house when they actually had Gabby's mother on the phone, you know, right up front, the very beginning of the case. And yeah, let's see. That's a brilliant comment. And Shan says, exposing corruption one live at a time. So many things happen and you don't hear about it for days. I find it a red flag when the news gives a nickname and blasts all of the information immediately, like Idaho 4. Right. And when the perps like Alec Baldwin come out and explain away the whole thing when they have already been told don't talk about it, right? But by doing that, people are very prone, susceptible to the power of persuasion and suggestion. So by doing that, it's pretty easy to control the narrative because that lays the groundwork and then everything is built up from there, right? And go back to that case, and we know that rugs were involved big time, big time. We've all seen and heard with our own eyes on the body cam footage. And Hannah Gutierrez Reed was high as a kite that day, and it was obvious to everybody, in my humble opinion. But most likely, everybody was doing it, or almost everybody. Let's see. What did I miss? I missed a couple. Let's see. Sorry if I missed your comment. I do try to read most of them. Sometimes I don't read the ones where you're just saying hi to everybody, but those are sweet. It's always nice to say hi to everybody. So much love for you, Jess. Oh, Shan, you're the best. Thank you, my dear. Yeah, I think it's great to have a variety of people and perspectives. Absolutely. And to be able to discuss things openly when you want to, right? Jazz talking about both. Yeah. Jackie Bushable, hello, says I'm sticking with, but Idaho 4. Okay. Oh, watching the world, you've ignored Idaho 4. I know a lot of the Squirrel Squad did ignore Idaho 4 intentionally, and I tried to for the first couple of weeks because we thought it was a distraction from Kylie. And who here thinks it's a distraction from Kylie still 2 years later? Put a 1 in chat if you still think it's a distraction from Kylie. I do, honestly. And it didn't quite work for all of us. I mean, it worked for the main, almost like the mainstream of YouTube, right? And you know what, Tonka? Now your name does look familiar. You're back from a long time ago, right? Or maybe you just are lurking a lot and don't have a chance to say hi. I don't know if you feel like sharing. It was a trifecta of calamities, and I'm sticking to it. Yes. Alice says, no, we were fortunate to be spared and never lost electricity. I'm in Miami, Florida. Lucky this time. Well, isn't that probably the only area that didn't lose electricity? Because, like I said, I have family in Florida, and I thought they said virtually the entire state lost electricity, even the places that weren't really hit hard. It was a really bad hurricane, you guys. That's so sad. 43, 44 lost lives. And to think how scary. I mean, was it like a tsunami? Was it like electricity? Was it like, getting crushed under something that fell? I mean, it's really frightening. And was it elderly? Was it young? So many questions. I'm sure we'll hear a lot more as the cleanup is happening. It's going to take a long time. It always does after these extremely disastrous ones. It takes years. I mean, we've had a few tornadoes roll through my area in the last few years, and I still see some of the devastation at times when I drive through certain areas. So I want to say it was was it 4 years ago? Was it the year of COVID? Was it 2020? I think that we had like a trifecta of 3 tornadoes touch down simultaneously. Springfield was hit hard. Parts of Dayton were hit hard. Beaver Creek was hit hard. It was crazy. I don't think anyone passed away, though, but it was 11 o'clock at night, so everybody was home. Most everybody was home. and there were warnings, like you weren't allowed to be outside basically unless you were first responder kind of thing. Everything was closed. It was probably a Sunday night. I mean, it was like all the ideal conditions for people to survive, because we are in a tornado ridden area here. Good choice of wording, Jazz. Controlling the narrative. Well, thank you, my dear. Law enforcement has been within proximity. I can't say that word right now. Law enforcement has been within proximity immediately prior to these events as well. Right, Tonka. I'm glad I caught your comment, because I just looked at your name earlier when I was looking at that comment and I didn't actually read the comment. I'm just so excited to be on live 2 days in a row. Oh my goodness, it's been so rough with the vertigo and the not being able to come on live. I mean, you wouldn't think it's that hard just to sit here and talk to people, but it is. When you're sick, it's hard to sit up. It's hard to focus. It's hard to smile or laugh. You certainly can't just sit here and read tiny print on a laptop, but I've been feeling better and better, and I just got to keep taking it easy and keep staying on top of it. So I've had a ton of appointments. I hate appointments. They ruin my life, except for when they're fixing something like this. So, but they ruin my life because then I can't do my content because I'm busy going to stupid appointments and stuff. But then if I'm feeling too sick to do my content anyway, then, oh well, I still don't like my whole day getting structured around appointments. I mean, when you have a job and you're getting paid like leave time, then that's fine, right? Because then it's kind of like a vacation from your job, a little paid vacation. But when you work for yourself, it just monkey wrenches your day, and then your whole day is gone. Especially if you decide to stop at the grocery store or something, then boom, whole day is over from one little appointment and one errand, right? So where are we at? I'm still on the Idaho 4 case, unfortunately. I know, and the change of venue is good. I'm sick of saying judge, even though I thought he seemed like a reasonable judge. I didn't agree with everything he did, of course, but I don't think going to another venue in Idaho is going to help that much. But, I try really hard not to pay attention to that case because it's so effing annoying, and it's so full of lies, and it's so full of distractions. Even if the criminal defendant did take part or is guilty, which I don't even like to say that even if, because none of that's ever been proven to me, in my opinion. It's only been proven that there's all kinds of effery. I mean, again, just look at the photograph of the back of the, is it the Corner Club? Is that the bar where they were that night? Sitting there with Jack D with a man without a face by the door talking to Adam and Jack S. I mean, isn't Man Without a Face the freaking douchebag police chief Small Fry, who is now running for sheriff? I haven't even paid attention if that's already water under the bridge or if that's coming up with November elections. I don't know. And then that whole thing with the billionaire freaking president of the school, the whole thing with Kopaka, the whole thing with all of it, the whole thing with Brett Payne, and the whole thing with Susan Payne, and the whole thing with Brett Payne Sr., and the whole thing with the sheath and the DNA and the 8 hours and the 12 hours. And my head is just spinning. And then, wait, what? The DoorDash? Come on, DoorDash, you're going to have the exact time nailed down when that food was left on the doorstep. The DoorDash people will take a picture. It's all in their DoorDash stuff, but they take a picture when they leave it there and they text. So they're going to know exactly what time the DoorDash was left there. But that's the one thing in the affidavit that says at about 4 o'clock. Give me an effing break. If it was exactly 4 o'clock, just say it was exactly 4 o'clock, because you would know. That's the one thing that you would know. But you would know a lot of things because of electronics. And yeah, okay, we're not talking about it anymore. Oh, it's just so sad too. I mean, and the stuff is just, it's hard to know what's real and what's not real, right? Watching the world says not really ignored it, was just caught up in Kylie and her truth. Yeah. And I get sick of the Kylie messes too, with people like MC Ultra and Zanime and SF. I mean, check it. Goodness gracious. These people are insanely ridiculous. Sam Brown is just as ridiculous. Wayne Wu is just as ridiculous. Chris Stanio and his identical twin brother, Matt Stanio, are just as ridiculous. You guys, I said it clearly last night. I've kind of said it not as clearly at other times, but Trinity Backus was most likely living with Nevada Sheriff's Deputy Christopher Stanio when she disappeared and was red-rummed. Oh, did I say she was red-rummed? I mean, passed away from exposure, right? Sorry. Oops. My bad. Freudian slip. And then the whole thing with the identical twin brother being in the California State Highway Patrol. So her uncle was part of the bigger picture of law enforcement, right there where her stepdad is law enforcement, where she just moved back in with him, most likely, in my opinion. Oh, these people are so freaking scummy. And the whole thing with victimizing kids. So even like Madeline Soto, you know, these are rings of people, you guys, like a perv like the one who hurt Maddie Soto. Those people do not live in vacuums. They work at Disney. They've got connections, believe me. There's rings of people. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And one victim is worth at least $1 million. I hate to say that. Trigger warning retroactively. It's disgusting. So disgusting. And all this stuff is videotaped, you guys. Like, we got to quit fooling ourselves. I don't often say it so directly. Every single one of these crimes is videotaped, in my opinion. If you agree with me, you can hit a 1 in chat and let me get caught up. Okay. Fred Fields says, one, only casually follow it. And can I call you Tonka? Because the first word is hard for me to say. I've been around a while, been hung up with Idaho 4. Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot of good channels that keep at it. And, you know, I'm not going to knock anybody for following their intuition with that. To me, it's just like hitting my head against a brick wall. I can only take it so much with any of these cases that I feel like are pure effery. You know, that's why I sometimes have to step back from our dear Kylie Rodney. And then lately with the vault and all the other documents, I just can't. It's like, why read a bunch of fabricated crap? But I appreciate the people that do. So yeah, okay. Yes, I thought so too. We exposed, just like with the fire cam, you know, I refused to pay too much attention to that, but I also really appreciated the people who belabored it and broke it down. So, you know, both can simultaneously be true at the same time for me. Kind of the paradox of, you know, that both can be true. The ambivalency, yeah. There's a lot of ambivalency in this world. We wish there wasn't. Yes, I thought so too. Expected loss of power, lots of water, wind, tree branches, a few episodes with afternoon before hitting land up north. Our area is a mess, and people lost power, but nothing compared to down there. I wonder about you in Pennsylvania, Shan. I hate appointments too. Oh, good. I'm not the only one. It's hard to do anything when you have a vertigo spell. Get vitamin B1 in you. It keeps my vertigo at bay. Oh, that's interesting, Shan, because I've been taking B12, not the shots, but the sublingual ones, not the subliminal ones, the sublingual ones. But I'll get my hands on some B1 also, unless that was a typo and you meant B12. But yeah, the what's that stuff called? Zofran. I have to live on that and I don't think I've had it yet today. I have had to eat that stuff like candy, like every 8 hours. I think Hitler will be the good for this case. Who's Hitler? I have no idea who Hitler is. Oh, is he the new judge? Is he the new judge in the Idaho 4? I haven't heard the name. That's a funny name. Scotty Green. Thank you, Tonka. Yeah, President Green. What a weirdo. What a weirdo. And then how they took the cars finally from the property where the slaughter happened after 2 weeks or more. And then they took them to Scott's house, put them in his driveway. That's not right. That's not how you do things. Not even close. And then you have the French fry driving your U-Haul. Oh man, that's when I was done. That's when I was just like, I can't. This is stupid. Mr. Green Jeans, private driver. Oh, are you talking about the private driver for that took them home from the food truck? Because there was that driver as well as the DoorDash driver, allegedly. And the 4 people yet left to walk out a door right past them. Right, that didn't happen. Drift away. That definitely didn't happen, in my opinion. They were either part of the coordination of it, which is what I believe, or they weren't there, or both, right? Possibly both. They were instructed not to be there. They didn't want to be there. Sometimes I think we are all being played. Exactly, Jackie. Yeah, the whole kit and caboodle. The whole thing is just like a scientific experiment to see what happens with media and social media and fake news. I mean, seriously, there's so much you can't believe. There's so much, from what I know, working in the courts, even though I believe in our system, it's kind of a joke. What you see on paper is not a true and accurate picture of what's going on. Most of what's really going on is not going to be on the paper, not going to be on the lawsuit, not going to be mentioned or testified to, but that's all we have. That's all we have. And, everybody swearing on the Bible that they're going to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Everybody perjures themselves in a trial, in my experience. Everybody, lawyers, law enforcement, judges, everybody. And you can sue anybody. You can sue your own lawyer. You can sue the judge. You can sue law enforcement. It's hard, and those cases get dismissed a lot because I'll just say it, they're all in cahoots. It's like blue backs the blue, and all of these people are all working together, like how people have said. Ann Taylor, didn't she go to school there too? She's friends with all these people. It's global, Tonka says. Tonka's on it, I believe. A lot of ones, and I'm not sure which one that is to. So let me get caught up. Thanks, fine. That's probably to the last one, right? Tonka is fine, cool. And thank you for taking one for the team and explaining all the BS in a coherent manner. Oh, are you talking about the most recent documents, the reports and all? No, I meant B1, not B12. Thanks, Shan. And yeah, it's been raining for 2 days now. Will continue until Wednesday, which I'm totally okay with, so long as winds don't exceed 60. I could do without another tornado for the remainder of the year. Yeah. Yeah, we needed the rain so bad. So that's another thing that'll probably help the vertigo. Maybe. I mean, I was already past the point of no return with my health status, but at least the rain and the saturation and a lot of rain will prevent a new episode of what started with the allergies and the drying of the membrane in the ear. It'll at least prevent a new episode from starting as I'm at the tail end, hopefully, of recovering from the old episode. Because that was one of my big fears, was that as I was getting better, I was going to be starting a whole new cycle of it too, if it didn't rain. So, all right. There was another thing that I missed yesterday. Hold on. I missed saying this about, this was in the Kylie Rodney case. So let's talk about Kylie, you guys. When law enforcement, in their ridiculous, incompetent buffoonery, said, "Oh, we don't know anything. We really need people to come talk to us. If you know anything at all, come talk to us." And Sammy's out there saying, "If you're a teenager, come talk to me. If you were thinking about going and you didn't go, come talk to me. If you never even thought about going and you didn't know and you don't even know anybody that went, come talk to me." Okay, hello. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but sometimes it takes a minute to let everything congeal. That's called phishing. Law enforcement was doing exactly what Scammy was doing. They were trying to find out who knew what. They were trying to find out and identify who they needed to keep a close eye on, and who was squirming, who was the weakest link. That's all that was. That wasn't just like, "Oh, we're so stupid, we don't know how to do our job. Can you please do our job for us?" But again, it's the guise of we're incompetent buffoons, rather than explicitly saying, "Okay, we're just super corrupt and we need to know everybody that knows anything so that we can keep you under control." Right? Of course, they're not going to say that. But that's what that was. That's exactly what that was. So, yeah. Oh, and I finally remembered after we hung up yesterday from the 2-hour live, that thing, and I put it in my thumbnail. The thing I couldn't think of. The chances of, let's say, unaliving from your baby are low but never zero. The chances of unaliving by your bestie are low but never zero. So that was the whole TikTok or Insta thing from back then. The chances of unaliving your bestie because she has a better rack than you are low but never zero. Wasn't that the one that Scammy did, or that she posted? But yeah, that was a very poor taste at best, that here someone she was claiming was a friend had just passed, and then she posts something about chances of getting unalived by somebody that is considered a friend, allegedly, are low but never zero. Unreal. They needed it to look like Kylie was super popular like Sammy. They didn't want Kylie to look like the quiet girl with limited friends, or like a weak target, aka a victim. Oh, I think you are absolutely accurate in that, Shan. That's very well stated. Right. And one of the reasons why they needed her to look really social, and Sammy's like, "Yeah, we talk to everybody. We'll talk to old freak perverts at parties because, we're just social like that." Right. Yeah. We talk to the scary guys at parties that are trying to force bong rips on us. Yeah. Because we're just silly girls. We just like to talk to everybody. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So yeah, by trying to make her look real social, makes it look like there's many more potential candidates that might have known her and might have abducted her or done whatever to her. Absolutely. And yeah, they tried to paint her like a party animal, which we know she wasn't. I mean, not every teenager in California is a party animal. It's just a fact of life. And the ones that can finish high school at 16, probably not party animals. Do you guys hear that? I think my cat is on the screen. I have my window open because it's so nice and cool out with the rain. Can you hear the rain? If I look at the cat, it'll like let the light flood in. Hold on. Oh, there. Okay, at least the cat's not like doing a Garfield on the screen. She was just knocking. She was like click click with them claws. Okay. So let's see. Lately, I'm wondering about how the Police Explorer program works into the overall scenarios. Tonka, thank you, thank you. So the Police Explorer program is what got Wayne Wu in hot water before he ever became sheriff. And even though he was exposed, he still became sheriff. So he statutory assaulted an explorer who was 16. And again, I'm not sure the age of consent in California. Isn't it 18 for California? Because it's 16 in Massachusetts, where Sandra Birchmore was. But if you're grooming people, but if you're the police officer, it doesn't matter what age somebody is. Somebody could be 30, like in Kentucky with the judge and the sheriff. Police are, I'll just say it, they're notorious for taking advantage of women in situations like that when a woman is being at risk of being put in jail. Oh, what is her name? Mitrice Richardson. Does that ring a bell, you guys? Mitrice, I'm not remembering her name right. Mitrice Richardson. She was in California. She was in jail and died. Mitrice Richardson. No, that's not it. Here, I'll have to put. So she was in jail in Southern California. And she was released and deceased. Mitrice Richardson. So it's Mitrice. And I'll just read you out of Wikipedia because this is one I've wanted to cover. I don't think I've ever talked about it on my channel. Mitrice Lavon Richardson, born April 30th, 85. Remains were found August 9th, 2010. Was a 24-year-old African-American woman who went missing on September 17th, 2009. After police claim she was released from a jail at the Malibu Lost Hills Sheriff's Station, where she had been taken after behaving erratically at a restaurant. She was missing for 11 months before being found deceased in August of 2010 by park rangers. Let me just read the rest of what they have because it's not that much more. Richardson's parents have maintained that their daughter should never have been released on her own by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, given her obviously disturbed condition. In 2011, the Richardson family settled the civil lawsuit with Los Angeles County privately for $900,000. In January 2017, the California Attorney General's office concluded an investigation into the circumstance surrounding Richardson's release from jail and decided not to bring charges against anyone involved in her release. Okay, so what I know about this case is that she was housed in the jail at least one night, and the jail cell that they selected for her was not in the view of any of the surveillance cameras. And then when she was released, there was a specific officer that basically went right after her out of the building. So she was an extremely attractive 24-year-old woman who had been at a restaurant and acting erratically, and tried to do a dine and dash. That's what she got arrested for. And then the rest is unknown. But her remains were found a year later, and nobody's ever been prosecuted. So, anyway, I don't know how I went from Explorer program into that, but just these people with pew-pews and badges and licenses to ill that are not fit for duty, not fit for service. It's pretty frightening. And there's a lot of them. I wouldn't say every department has those, but too many departments have those. And then when you get those departments that's in the leadership, or the leadership's turning a blind eye, and the Explorer programs are for kids that are 18 and under. And I know situations where weird stuff has gone on. And it's not just law enforcement, you guys. It's other first responder services too have Explorer programs. So we got to be careful who we allow our kids to hang out with. Like, we'll think, oh, okay, well, if they're in an Explorer program, then it's all going to be squeaky clean. Not so fast. You can't assume anything, right? Everything Scammy claimed Kylie is just Scammy projecting the lifestyle she was living. Also, in my opinion, 100% Shan, agree 100%. And yeah, Scammy was a complete skanko, and she tried to make it look like Kylie was a complete skanko. And yeah. So what do you guys think? Who gave Scammy a ride home that night? If there was a party that she was at and if she needed a ride home that night. I think Scammy gave Scammy a ride home that night. That's my opinion. If you agree, put a 1. If you disagree, put a 2, or who you think might have given her a ride home. Very much seems that way. Isn't that what the officer did with his mistress and after the Explorer program? Yeah, the Sandra Birchmore. Exactly. So she was 23 when she was pregnant and unalived, but she had started in that Explorer program when she was like 12 and maybe even younger. And he wasn't there the first 2 years that she was there, but it seems like their other officers were probably already grooming her because the police chief had been grooming her. He had his way with her. Matthew Farwell started there in 2014. She started there in 2012. And she was passed around. So my point with the Ruggs is that they probably weren't just passing around cute little tiny Explorer kids. They were probably partying hardy in other ways too. Right? I still want to know what was going on with Enrique Delgado-Garcia, because as a victim advocate for that other county next door to the county where Stoughton and Canton are, and I have to apologize for all my confusion with the two counties yesterday. I think Stoughton and Canton are Norfolk County. I'll double check my notes, but my notes were confusing me anyway. And then the other county is the one that's like Worcester is how you say it, but that's not how it's spelled. It's spelled like Worcester. Norfolk County is Canton. So the Norfolk County DA is in Canton. And then the Worcester DA is in Worcester. So also confusion. I didn't figure this out until after my live. New Braintree is where that police academy is for the Massachusetts State Patrol, the town of 900 people. New Braintree. I'll have to double check myself, because then there's another town called Braintree that's just north of Canton. So you got New Braintree an hour away, in Worcester County, and then you've got Braintree that I think is in Norfolk County. It's like they're trying to confuse you. I know we do that here in Ohio too with Miami Valley. Everything's called Miami Valley. Everything's called Miami Township. You have towns that are called Miami Township as a town, like the city of Miami Township. And then you've got the township of Miami Township. Then you've got Miami Township in like Greene County. Then you got Miami Township in Hamilton County. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Yeah. Okay, let's stay caught up with you guys. The police car was parked in our store lot 4:30 a.m. with lights out. Never went in store. My first thought was the PD Explorer ride along. Oh, Fred, yeah, that's creepy. Do you hear the airplane? Sounds like some Amy Morris shite, except she died in her jail cell before seeing a judge. Right. And wasn't she kept out of the view of the surveillance camera too? I know there's a few cases like that, but like I've said before, a lot of cases they'll tell you that the dash cam, the body cam, or the surveillance camera was having a hiccup that day, and they just don't have that footage, or they have the footage except that one little part is clipped out, like in the Kendrick Johnson case down in Georgia with the kid who was unalived in the high school gym during school hours. And the kid that unalived him, in my opinion, that guy's dad was FBI. Rick Bell is the dad's name. And then Brian Bell was one of the sons. And then there was another son, the Bell boys. Oh man, that's a really sick case. And that's a case that, you know, Kendrick Johnson's family has begged and begged YouTube content creators in true crime to focus on that case. So I think that it's a really interesting case too, and it's hideous, and it needs to be readdressed. It's been readdressed several times. They've exhumed the body several times. It's a horrible, hideous case. But yeah, that one little part of the surveillance camera is clipped out, but I think it also like goes in a loop so that it doesn't look like it's clipped out, but it like replayed the same thing or something like that. Like, oh, they think they're so crafty. But then they got somebody like Shan who can like nail them because she knows all those crafty things with the technology. But then some of them are just so obvious to someone like me without the craftiness and technology, just to the naked eye. It's like it couldn't be more obvious. But they get away with it because they have that power and authority. And then the whole thing with, you know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, like what's going on in Kentucky with that judge that was pew-pewed by the sheriff. Like, it sounds like there was a lot of effery going on in there. Nobody's saying boo. Nobody is saying boo. So, you know, that sheriff was probably already under a federal investigation for supervising the deputy, blah, 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 blah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And again, you know, we probably won't know a lot of the facts because a lot of the facts never make it to local. The information doesn't surface locally, let alone nationally. But Fred, that is gross. Sounds like some Amy Morris. Oh, okay, sorry that I had read that one and skipping over Fred's. See, it's terrible. My eyes are a little jumpy too. The glare in here can be kind of bad. Restaurant in Malibu. Yep, Dine and Dash. I know. And see, I'd lived in Malibu a long, long time ago when I was a kid. And I wonder, like, I picture it happening at a place called Carlos and Pepe's, but I don't know what the name of the restaurant was where it happened. Or the Baja Cantina. I don't even know if that one is still around. I think it is. It was a little hole in the wall that got fancy. Like when I lived in Malibu, it was not a fancy place. I mean, there were movie stars that lived there, but they lived there to try to get away from Hollywood. It was a surfing town. It was just really down to earth. Nobody wore makeup. Nobody did their hair. Everybody wore super casual clothes, flip-flops and shorts. It's not like that anymore. I've gone back to visit and I'm just like, this is not the same town at all. Police officers, crimes, segue. My daughter did a ride along when she was 16. Oh no, drift away. Well, hopefully nobody tried anything hinky with her. Because, yeah, that's scary. I mean, ride-alongs are really common things. I mean, Steven Seagal used to do ride-alongs because he loves law enforcement. And probably nobody tried anything hinky with him, right? But maybe he got hinky with them. Who knows? Especially if it was like female officers. People have a thing for uniforms too. Like that's a big turn on. And then, people in uniform are not supposed to do anything like that in uniform. Like that's, even if they're not on duty, they're not supposed to do that type of thing. It's part of their oath that they won't do pervy crap. But how many of them take that seriously, right? It's like the first steps onto a staircase with missing steps, right? True. Yep. For a week, job shadow kind of thing. Squirrel says herself. Yeah. 111. Good afternoon, Jazz. Hey, Sherry. Nice to see you. Let's see. They need to work on a law that prevents minors' remains from being cremated. Hello. Until all aspects of the case is closed. But seeing how they feel about abortions and killing babies, it might be a hard task. Right. And like with Maddie Soto, I'm 1,000% convinced that she was pregnant and that they're probably going to try to keep that under wraps because that's such a volatile issue. And then it would bring even heavier charges to Stephen Stearns. It would bring even heavier charges to her mother if she gets charged with anything. And it would also bring more heat to Disney World and to anybody that might be in Steven's circle that he might have been selling videos to or sharing his victim with. Trafficking. There, child trafficking. We'll just say it. Just call it what it is. And then if there's a baby involved, that is a whole nother crime. OMG, Shan, that has been rattling my brain for months. Yeah, because I think that Maddie's remains were cremated, and that was probably why that there was no verification of what was going on with that when it seems abundantly clear that was going on, right? So let me see if Mookie will come on screen like she did yesterday. Come here, baby. Sometimes she comes to me and then runs away, like right now. Come here, Mookie. Come here, silly. And sometimes when I pick her up, she'll yelp like I'm hurting her. But not that time, luckily, because you guys would be like, what are you doing to your dog? Don't hurt your dog. So yeah, I always like to try to show off that silly heart on her forehead. The little love bug. She's so cute. She's only a quarter wiener dog, but I always say she thinks she's all wiener dog. She is half Chiweenie, so she's half Chihuahua, and then she's half rat, half monkey, half weasel or prairie dog. She's such a little goofball. She's constant entertainment for me. And my baby, my snuggler. I have never heard of them cremating anyone until a case is closed. I know, until Kylie, right, and then the Idaho 4. That alone is why I think it's a cover-up homicide, as is Trinity. 100%. And Trinity lived with a deputy for the Nevada County Sheriff, I think. I believe that she moved in when her mother moved in, because I know her mother moved back in with him, and I know Trinity was living with her mom. But even if she wasn't living there, even if she hadn't moved back in, even if she was like staying with friends, couch surfing, staying at her boyfriend's, uh, technically, legally, Chris Daniel is still her stepdad, even though they were technically divorced. And also, Chris Daniel's brother would still be her uncle, because you don't divorce kids in a divorce. You don't divorce nieces and nephews, like, in my opinion. I agree, and it needs to apply for everyone that's been opted out under suspicious circumstances. Yeah, absolutely. I was trying to find a YouTube correct way to say that. Yes. Oh, goodness. Let me get a drink of water and then look at my notes again and see if Mookie is going to stay on my lap or if she's going to jump down. She's staying, she says. She's like, I need your heat, Mama. So, I think that's everything that I had in my mind's eye for today. So, unless you guys have anything. Oh, we could bring up the Lionel Cervantes again, that I brought up yesterday. A lot of you didn't know, so maybe you looked it up. The little 8-year-old boy, autistic boy from South Carolina that escaped from his school at what, like 11:30 in the morning, and then, or 11:30, and then was found half an hour later drowned in a pond nearby. That's crazy. That is so crazy. And I know I saw a still shot of surveillance footage of him walking down the sidewalk. So I had said in my live yesterday that I don't see any signs of foul play, other than the big one, of course, the negligence. I mean, that is foul play, in my opinion. And I think legally it's probably considered foul play in a situation like this. And even if it's without malice, that's huge. I mean, a school can't lose your kid and then have your kid turn up not alive. It's not how it works. And, again, that goes back to Kendrick Johnson. I mean, he didn't get lost. He was there on the premises the whole time. But Kendrick Johnson was like 15. This little boy is 8 and autistic. So it's just really sad. So young, so vulnerable. I think it was about 5 days ago now. Has anyone heard anything about that? Let's see. Nova will come stay on your lap if you can handle 105 pounds. I don't think I could. I didn't know Nova was that big. Because my big dog here, Coco, she's like 40 pounds. Coco, come here, baby. She's so cute. Coco. Yeah, she's doing well-ish for having the medical condition that she has, but it's scary. Of course, it's absolutely scary. And I think she knows something's wrong. I think she knows that growth shouldn't be there. And she can probably smell it too, right? I mean, dogs are really good at smelling cancer. I don't even like to say the word. I don't want her to hear me say it, but I'm sure she smells it. The past 20 years have killed the shock factor in life, and everything and anything is possible, trying to desensitize us all. My daughter has a Chessie that is 110 pounds and thinks she is a tiny bub still. She sends me the coolest pics of her lap puppy. Just love me, ma. Is this Daniels guy possibly related to Don Daniels in Washington? Which Daniels guy? Who's the Daniels guy? Dogs can smell it. Yeah, my 70-pound pit is a lightweight, it seems. LOL. Don Daniels. I know that name from one of the cases, but I'm drawing a blank. Fred Nova is a pit mastiff. I think you said Chris. Chris Daniels. Wait, what? Dawn Daniels. That's not the name of the woman who's the assistant police chief at Washington State University, is it? I think it is. Is this Daniels guy possibly related to Don Daniels in Washington? Yeah, I think that is who Don Daniels is. I was going to Google it. Who's Chris Daniels? If I ever showed my dogs in a live or video, they'd steal the show and probably my channel. That's funny. So who's this Chris Daniels? I'm drawing a blank on what you're talking about. Oh, don't bark, please. They bark at everything. Yeah, that's like too common of a name. Unless you can answer, Tonka, who this Daniels guy is. Probably related to Don Daniels in Washington. Was I talking about a Daniels and I just don't remember? Because I do that. I have like short attention span going when I'm on my lives. I'll be like, huh? What you guys talking about? And it's like obvious what you're talking about. Oh, someone involved in Trinity's case. Okay. So Christopher Stanio. Christopher Stanio is her mom's estranged husband. I don't know. Maybe they're remarried by now. So Andrea Stanio had just moved back in with Chris Stanio, like weeks before Trinity was missing and then deceased. So there was Chris Stanio, whose identical twin brother is Matthew Stanio, who's also local law enforcement with the California State Highway Patrol. Those two, I really think, are going to be key in Trinity's case and maybe a factor at the very least in Kylie's case, in my opinion. And they're public figures, so I can say whatever I want, in my opinion, as long as I'm not just making it up for the sake of making it up. That's the way that whole libel slander thing works. Oh, okay. That's all right if you heard wrong. So yeah, Chris Stanio, but I'm glad that you brought that back to Chris Stanio and his evil twin brother. Maybe not evil. Maybe his brother's fine. Maybe they're both fine. But the fact that they didn't just step up and say, oh my goodness, we're law enforcement and look what happened to my niece, look what happened to my stepdaughter, that's what makes it even more suspicious. Again, going back to Idaho 4 case where we started today's live, the fact that the Moscow PD didn't just come forth and say, oh, we've been to this house, 1122 King Road, so many times recently, and we've spoken with all the deceased, and it makes it that much sadder for our crew because we knew them, we were familiar with them. The fact that they didn't say any of that makes it really crazy to me, makes it really suspicious to me, because why not just say it? Like, you're human, you're professionals, you can be both human and professional, right? I mean, come on. Let's see, exactly when they lie, you have to ask why. Yeah. Well, there's only one reason to lie, unless they're just, misinformed. But if they're purposefully giving out incorrect information, it's because they have something to hide and cover up. So, yeah. It's really sad to me to see, especially young people, get victimized by law enforcement. Law enforcement has the ability to do whatever they want to do. They've got the gun, the badge, the license to ill. And young people don't have a leg to stand on. I mean, unless their dad is somebody like Bill Gates, I mean, or Alec Baldwin. I mean, unless or Dwayne Kessinger, right? Going back to the Watts case with NK, I mean, unless their parents are loaded or doctors or lawyers, like in the Amanda Knox and Rafaela, so how do you say his last name? Rafaela Solido, I think is how you say his name. And his daddy was a doctor, his uncle was a lawyer, his family was Italian, whatever family, let's just say family. That's how you get away with it. Even Amanda Knox had an uncle who was a lawyer in Germany. I just found this out more recently. She had gone to Germany that summer in the weeks right before her roommate turned up victimized. She had been at her uncle's in Germany, supposedly for an internship at the law firm, but she didn't do the internship at the law firm. She just hung out in Germany and, did dudes and rugs because that was her thing. She's so gross. She's no better than NK. Okay, let's see. Okay, why can I ask? Okay, then can I ask, why did they go with a possible abduction with Kylie when it was supposedly an accident that happened at the party? Right. I think, and anybody can jump in, I think it was because she was abducted. They knew she was abducted, and then they were just trying to point in other directions for the abductors and traffickers. She could be anywhere in the world. So it's my opinion that they probably thought that the evidence would be supporting an abduction, and then they could say, well, who did it? We don't know. We're the ones looking for her, right? That's why I think they went with abduction. That is called misleading with false information. Right. So even the law enforcement was part of that. They were obstructing justice. They were making false statements. They were lying to investigators and probably still are. That's why I think this goes so high up, because it's 44 agencies that are involved, Shan? Is that the right number? It's huge. I mean, when P. Diddy was arrested, I really thought that there was a snowball's chance that she was in his custody, like under his house, in his basement, in some chained up, dungeon. I didn't really think that that's what's going on, but now they're saying, oh, look, he's got massive tunnels under his property. Like, why would he have massive tunnels under his property? And what would 1,000 bottles of baby oil be for, you guys? I don't even want to think about that. How big were these baby bottles? Were these like the giant baby bottles of oil? Were these the little tiny baby bottles of oil? What would you need 1,000 for? I mean, I don't even want to go there. I don't know. I can't even imagine. Like beyond the kinky stuff, like to the sadistic and narc stuff. You know where I'm going with that. Gross. So let's get back to the Cat Williams interview on Club Shay Shay from January of this year. I think that interview has gotten close to 80 million views by now. Let me look it up. I'll put a link to it in the description. But Cat Williams, Club Shay Shay, and Cat is from Dayton, Ohio, and Cincinnati, Ohio, and then he moved to Florida. Let's see, Cat Williams, Club Shay Shay. And you guys have all seen this interview, right? Or at least clips of it. I mean, people have been talking about it ever since. So it's from January 3rd of 2024. It's 2 hours and 46 minutes. I'm just looking.
This is the other side of Kirk Franklin.
I'm just looking to see how many views it's gotten. Here we go. That's his voice. So it's about just over 77 million views right now. So once it hits, wow, I thought it would have hit 80 million by now. Too many zeros. I can't keep track. Anyway, he predicted the P. Diddy thing, and he's predicted a lot of things. And that interview is just key, absolutely key, in my opinion, to a lot of what's going on right now with all of these elites getting outed. I don't know. They must have crossed somebody, huh? Must have crossed somebody. Watching the world drift away says he is just a sick something. Far too many supported and aided him to ever come out and know the truth. Yeah, watching the world. I was watching a YouTube special about his rise, his meteoric rise to fame. I didn't realize that P. Diddy had gone to Howard University and he dropped out because he had his music connections, but he had parties at Howard University. You know, that's like the Black university in Washington, D.C., where a lot of successful Black professionals have gone to school. He would have parties while a student there of thousands of people, you know, like Sammy style parties, but actually with thousands of people. And so then when he quit going to school there, he used his contacts and he was working at that record studio in New York. And I'm not real hip to know all the names. You guys probably know. It was like R&B recording or something like that. And then he went out on his own with Bad Boy Recording, I think was where he branched out, just like 2 years later. So when he was like an intern there, he had already dropped out of college. He was doing his internship and he was just on fire. And then the whole war thing started with Tupac and Biggie and the whole thing with J-Lo. And yeah, just a hot mess, absolute mess. But he was a scary guy. He still is a scary guy. I mean, look what he did to his kid's mother, and even his kids won't really call a spade, because if he'd do it to their mom, he'd probably do it to them too. I mean, psychos are psychos, you know, sociopaths are sociopaths. Yeah. And nothing's ever enough for these people. Nothing is ever enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough gratification. There's not enough hot babes. There's not enough attention. Nothing is ever enough. A lot of conspiracy theorists will be vindicated, though. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I hear you. Right. And if they're vindicated, then they're not conspiracy theorists. They're just theorists, right? I personally really despise the way that word gets thrown around and weaponized. I mean, there's things that I theorize about that I hope I'm dead wrong on. And, you know, I always say most things that occur, crimes especially, there's more than one person involved, and they talked about it beforehand, and that's what qualifies a conspiracy, is a crime committed by more than one person, or that people talked about it. It doesn't even need to be committed by more than one person, just coordinated. right? So on that, we're getting close to an hour and a half, and there are things that are the truth. And the first reply is, "Oh, you conspiracy theorist." I know. I think I get called that a lot by like other, I don't know about other content creators, but I know I've seen people like trash me in other live chats, maybe calling me that. And, you know, part of it is like, okay, well, no publicity is bad publicity, because like, why are people even talking about me in chats? But part of me is like deeply hurt and offended, and another part of me is just like, yeah, F off. I mean, again, I hope I'm wrong about a lot of these things. I hope that Maddie Soto wasn't preggers. I hope that the judge in Kentucky was not having an affair with the freaking sheriff's 17-year-old daughter. Has anybody heard anything about that? Because Mickey Stein is the sheriff. Judge Kevin Mullins, they're in Whitesburg, Kentucky. They're doing that carnival this weekend if you want to go and find out what the word on the street is. I mean, that town is so small, it's like under 2,000 people. So if there was the kind of effery that was going on in the department that was under the sheriff's leadership with that deputy that was sentenced to 6 whole months in jail for taking advantage and having his way with somebody that was in legal trouble, or 3 people that were in legal trouble, but only the one that he was prosecuted for. And then he got 7 years probation. But that happened under that sheriff's supervision or lack thereof. And so that sheriff is responsible for that. Absolutely. It's his job to know. And he knew. There's no way he didn't know. But if he tries to say he didn't know, it's his job to know. He's the sheriff. He's a detective. He's in charge. This is his work crew. This is his jurisdiction. If he doesn't know, then it's negligence and he's not doing his job. But remember, he had done his most recent deposition on that new lawsuit against him as the supervisor. He had just done the last deposition 3 days before he shot Judge Mullins. Is that his name? Stein is the sheriff, and yeah, Kevin Mullins is the judge. So remember too that the DA is married to the judge's sister. So the judge's wife and her sister were married to the judge and the DA. So the DA had to recuse himself from the case. And did they find somebody to handle the investigation? I think I looked that up after my live last night, and that they did find somebody to lead the investigation. Or no, that was the one with no. That was the one with Enrique Delgado-Garcia up there in Massachusetts. So they did state last night that they found somebody to lead that investigation, allegedly. I don't think I wrote it down though. Let me see if I did. Maybe I did. All right. Brain's falling apart. 90-minute mark, it'll be. So I better sign off quickly and read what you're writing here, drift away. Most of me is F off. Yeah, I know. I mean, and you just have to thicken your skin. If you're going to be on YouTube, you're going to get haters. You're going to get, crap thrown at you. And it's almost like a sport, seriously. Like, you just can't get too concerned with it. But it's easier said than done sometimes, What is the percentage of DV among LE marriages? Is it high? I do know that. I know the divorce rate is really high, drift away. I'm married to a police officer, so we're not divorced yet. Fingers crossed. I mean, we've been together for a long time, and I think that there's a lot of reasons that the divorce rate is high. It's a stressful job, obviously, but I think a lot of police officers, like a lot of doctors, I think they do take advantage of what they call there's badge bunnies. They call them badge bunnies. So if you're a badge bunny, just know that you're made fun of by law enforcement and military. They call you badge bunnies. There's a lot of people that, an officer and a gentleman is a perfect example, or that old Rolling Stone song, Star Effer, so they have this, they say like power is intoxicating, people that sleep with politicians that are really gross, like Gary Condit or freaking Bill Clinton. I mean, so I think that that's one of the reasons why the divorce rate is so high. Another reason is that I think a lot of guys that get into law enforcement, and it is definitely male dominated big time, I think a lot of them are power mongers. They're power drunk, and they get into the field because they want to have the pew pew and the badge and the license to ill, and they want to be the boss, and they want people to bow down to them. And that's really scary. Like, those are the last people that you want to give the badge and the gun to, in my opinion. So, there's not so many female law enforcement, unfortunately. There should be, but I understand that, a lot of women feel harassed in those positions or are harassed in those positions. So it's tough. Springfield, Ohio, they have a female sheriff and a female, the city of Springfield's police chief is a female. So I don't know. I mean, to have two like that in the same jurisdiction, basically, that's pretty wild in leadership positions. And some of that might be based on merit. Some of that might be like the per capita. No, what do they call that? Where they're just trying to like get their numbers to look good, by having more diversity, right? There's like a little phrase for it that we used back in the 90s. Quota, right? Like per quota or something like that. Yeah, not equality. I think it was quota. I have several in my family, and equality, we call them hookers with an H. See, and I was talking about Chillicothe, and how that was another whole thought process that I didn't really finish. So I'll try to finish it right now before I wrap up. That with all of the missing and deceased women that are in the oldest industry known to humans, it's my opinion that it's probably law enforcement that's doing it, because otherwise wouldn't they have busted the person or people doing it by now? And that's nothing new, to have women in that situation taken advantage of by law enforcement. That's nothing new. That's like as old as the profession, right? So, yeah. I mean, I feel fortunate to be in a long-term marriage. We've been together since 1990, so 34 years. We got married in 92 in Olympia, Washington. But no marriage is perfect. No marriage is easy. And him being in law enforcement has definitely taxed our marriage, and it's taxed his health. He's only been in law enforcement for like the last 20 years, roughly, maybe 22 years. So he was a park ranger type when we were in Washington State. He worked for Department of Fish and Wildlife, and he was a biologist and he wanted to be a ranger. So he had to keep getting more law enforcement experience. So he got into the field in his later in his adulthood too, like, before he was 40, but maybe like his late 30s. So that's pretty cool because he was already like a well-established person, a well-established professional before being handed the gun and the badge and the license to ill. And he was attacked by somebody not that long ago, and while on the job, and I'm so proud of him for using like the least amount of force. Like a lot of officers get in trouble for use of excessive force. He almost was not using enough force, but he was able to maintain his safety and get control of the guy. But he did get a little beat up before his backup could arrive. So, that person is in the process of being prosecuted and serving hard time. But, what I'm trying to say is he doesn't abuse his power because, yeah, he could have acted a lot more forcefully with that individual, but he didn't need to, and he's not going to. He's not that type of person. And if he was, I wouldn't want to be connected to somebody like that. Like, that's really sick. A lot of police officers get very power drunk, and they're young. They're very young, and they shouldn't be. They can be trigger happy. I should just wrap it up here before I trash the profession, right? No, I think that there's a lot of I have a lot of respect for the profession and people that do it. It's a tough job. Security without the hassle. Job security without the hassle. See, I was thinking like glorified security officer. I'm glad he's okay, and I do understand the fear of the job, especially nowadays. Yeah, see, I don't so much fear the those thugs. I fear the other thugs, the ones that we're talking about in our true crime. Those are the thugs that I fear. Seriously. So that we will wrap up. You guys have a lovely rest of your day. It's just a little bit after 4. I hope that you're off to the start of a great weekend and getting good nutrition, good relaxation. Stay hydrated. Love and light. Thanks for watching. And I'll make sure you can see the cool cobalt blue Rose Cathedral replica from the Notre Dame Cathedral. So, all right, you guys. Thanks for being here, people. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. See you soon. Maybe tomorrow, hopefully. Fingers crossed, but hopefully by Monday at least. If I keep having these good days.